Okay, welcome to the Gut Club's, I think, ninth installment of our podcast, Who's Counting? Today we have a really wild ride. We're going to be talking about water and what kinds of water may be best for us to drink in relation to our gut health. This is a fascinating subject. It's deep water. We're going to be treading deep water today. We're learning aloud in a lot of cases here at the Gut Club. Today we have a guest, Alderin Ordell, who is
Hello.
with Alderin. Welcome with Water for Life. And
Thank you for having me.
Alderin, we're thrilled to have you. In fact, I think, it's safe to say that this is our first time meeting, at least through cameras, but we've talked on the phone over the years. And I've been your customer for well over 15 years, I believe. How long have you been in business now?
17 years. We started in December of 2006, so
17 years. And,
going
and
on
you're,
17 years.
wow, congratulations. And
Thank
you,
you.
you are a distributor of high alkaline water machines. That's
Correct, yes.
that's how's business, by the way?
It's good. I mean, it's always steady. We get a lot of word of mouth that keeps the customers coming, and that's the best kind because people are satisfied and they tell others, and they experience positive benefits and they want to share it with their friends and loved ones, and that's the core of our business.
It's really a fascinating thing that you leapt into 17 years ago. I mean, I guess the leader in the field at that time might have been the multi-level marketing um, of Kangen water machines. Were they around when you took a
Yeah,
leap?
they were
Yeah.
first and we were second.
Wow,
into the US. Well, I mean, Jupiter was around. Jupiter was the first iteration of what do they become? Alcoviva, and I think they're still around in some form, but they were there probably about a year before we got into the market.
amazing.
And
Okay.
I learned about water ionizers from a health magazine, and it was
Hmm.
talking about the need for alkalinity and antioxidants and restoring water to a more natural state for us to drink. And it was showing some of the health benefits of that. So I got interested, bought myself one of the first Jupiters that were out there. It was just a 3-plate water ionizer. Now they're 7 and 9 plates, but this was just a 3-plate water ionizer.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't do a lot to the water, but it did enough to raise the pH at least 15 times more than what was coming out of the tap. And it created that hydrogen in there that was the antioxidant in the water. So I
Mm-hmm.
started to drink it regularly and noticed immediate differences and got me interested in selling them. So I contacted Jupiter and they allowed me to purchase some units at wholesale. Sold those, but then realized some of the limitations of their machines got me interested in and seeing what else was out there, because I know this is new to at the time was new to the U.S. market, but definitely not new to Japanese and Korean and Chinese markets. They've been around for a couple decades before. So I
Yes.
got interested in some of the Korean models that was the same as Jupiter, and booked a trip to Korea and met with several of the manufacturers and ended up picking out EOS, and they were my first product. They are the manufacturers of the KYK. So KYK was they used EOS products but put their brand name on it. And then eventually I cut out KYK because they weren't actually making their own products and went straight to EOS. So been with them for 17 years. They make the Revelation 2, and they make the Rio water ionizers that we sell. So fantastic
Okay.
company, fantastic products.
Yeah, I'm on my second machine now. I think the first machine was a Genesis with the red front. Now you can see behind me the Genesis steel on my counter, which I'm very happy with. So they're quite durable machines, actually. The technology. Speaking of the history, I was able to find, these kinds of um, experiments going on way back to the late 1700s. I think there's a 1789 paper about the, I guess, the electrolyzing of water. And the history is fascinating. So you're in Oregon, in Portland, Oregon. I like your waterfalls poster. I see.
Yeah.
Um, water is just so crucial. I happen to be an enthusiast and an activist in the field of sanitation. I clean what's more important than clean water. One of the things that that I originally was drawn to with your machines was the fact that they not only ionize the water, and we're going to get into how that technology can help raise protective gut microbes. So this is new stuff, I think, to the field. Uh, I wrote an article about it. I'll share later, back in 2016. But since then, the interest has really blossomed. There's quite a lot of research in the area of electrolyzed water and gut microbes and gut health through redox interplay. That's heavy stuff. But basically, I was drawn to the idea that the machines also had filters. Tell me about the filtration, because that's a huge benefit in and of itself. I mean,
Well, filtration is essential. Here on the West Coast, we're experiencing, well, more recently it's been raining, but previous to that, extreme drought conditions that has concentrated our water supplies from underground and lakes and whatnot. So all the contaminants in that water has also been concentrated, but the municipal water treatment systems have not been upgraded to deal with the excessive amount of just even naturally occurring heavy metals and other contaminants from agriculture, animal agriculture especially, using all kinds of pesticides and disinfectants, and that gets into the streams and the rivers and ends up in our water supplies. And then you got industry, especially companies like 3M and DuPont that are making pesticides and making Teflon that goes on our pans and other non-stick. Well, those are incredibly toxic chemicals that are in our water supplies now that are linked to cancer in humans and other health conditions. It's like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma
oh yeah,
and some other really nasty stuff.
oh
So
sure.
the filtration is essential because whether you're dealing with chromium-6, which is a heavy disinfectant that's used in industry, if everybody saw Erin Brockovich, that was one of the things she was fighting against and won in her particular case. But chromium-6 is all over the country. It's almost in every water supply across the country. It's not just in her location that she was fighting. Hinkley, California, I think it was. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
And that's just one of them.
Oh
So
yeah.
our machines have 16 stages of filtration in them to target each of these different contaminants, and even the really small ones, like some of the emerging contaminants. An emerging contaminant is something that is kind of new that the municipal water treatment companies or systems aren't really sure what to deal with because they're new, and they're like your pharmaceutical drugs that are getting flushed down the toilets. It's like chemicals from our sunscreens that are washing off in the shower. That's getting into our water supply. Those are called emerging contaminants. So you need a really small micron filter to get those out because they're small. So our machines are 0.01 micron filtration, which is 99.99% contamination removal. And like I said, each of the stages of our filters is there to target different contaminants. So we have like a sediment filter to take out the bigger stuff. We have activated carbon to remove chlorine. We have different stages of ceramic filtration to target fluoride and some of these smaller contaminants, and they repeat. So it's not just a one-time over, goes through these really good stages a couple of times before it actually comes out of the machine. So we get the
Yeah.
bad stuff out.
Yeah. So, I mean, not only are you getting ionized water, but you're getting high-tech filtration. I'm
Yeah.
not sure, but I would think that the filters alone um, would be competitive with just filtration systems that are available. That's
Well, And multi-stage water filtration is even better than reverse osmosis, because reverse osmosis, what a lot of people resort to, is it takes everything out of the water and it leaves water empty and acidic, and that's not good for us to drink, because we need oxygen and trace minerals and alkalinity and antioxidants and all these
Oh
things
yeah.
that help us out. So if you take everything out and just drink a stagnant, dead water, then that's not good for your health either.
Well, you're
And
preaching
so
to the
you want
choir. Yeah.
multi-stage, because multi-stage like ours are designed to keep the mineral content of the water, the trace minerals in there. And then even when you ionize the water through our water electrolysis, it's actually concentrating those trace minerals. So you're getting even more of the magnesium, the potassium, the calcium, and all the other trace minerals that are good for you.
Oh yeah. There's quite a lot of study about those minerals in relation to heart health alone,
Yeah.
in water. In fact, you're preaching to the choir, Alderin, because I think it was 2004, 2005, I retired our reverse osmosis system to get your machine.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I had a top of the line Culligan reverse osmosis system inside, and then outside I had a water softener and a carbon tank to remove chlorine. You know, I was you know since then I've been learning more and more about the dangers of chlorine and gut microbes. How well do the filters just take away chlorine?
Oh,
In
it
these
takes out all the
machines?
chlorine, 99.99% removal of chlorine.
Yeah. Did you know that chlorine is associated with high cholesterol?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a wow because it's probably mediated by microbes. I mean, we know that probiotics have been shown to lower cholesterol. So, a while ago I saw that the famous swimmer Mark Spitz. You remember Mark Spitz in the Olympics? I don't know if you're old enough to remember Mark. Um,
I think I remember him. How many years are we going back?
oh, this was in the 70s, like I think the
Okay.
72 Olympics, I think. Uh,
I was born in 79, so it's a little bit before.
okay. Yeah, I'm 1961. So so I was, the whole world was glued on Mark Spitz. He was the first like real, you know, multi-gold medal superstar. All of a sudden, he was a spokesperson for the pharmaceutical industry for statin drugs to lower cholesterol because he had very high cholesterol and didn't know why. Now, I'm
Oh,
not
those
saying,
statins killed my mom.
oh,
Yeah, those drugs, she was on them for her high blood pressure, and it weakened her heart so bad that she suffered a massive heart attack on my 23rd birthday when she
oh
was
my,
53. We were out playing tennis and she just dropped dead.
oh my
So
gosh.
that was directly linked to that. It's actually a combination of the statin drugs that had weakened her heart over all the years that she was on them, and then she took a high dose of Advil right before uh, playing tennis.
Mm-hmm.
And if you right on the website at Advil, it basically says that people with blood pressure problems should not be taking high doses of Advil because it could cause a fatal heart attack. Right there on their website.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's quite traumatic. So I'm sorry to bring up statin drugs in relation to ionizers then, but
Well,
you
it's a
know,
good example. A lot of people took them, and a lot of people have these heart problems because of it.
interesting. Well, I think it's the leading pharmaceutical drug in sales, and they're still being handed out like candy by doctors, I believe. The route I think to balancing cholesterol levels is by balanced microbes, and that's what we're going to talk about in a moment, and how your technology that you promote and have distributed for all these years uh, can help in doing that. I think we're going to shake up a lot of people with this information. So before we do that, why don't we show our members of the Gut Club? By the way, I'm Keith Bell. I'm the founder of the Gut Club. I didn't introduce myself earlier. I never do. Alderin, why don't you show us one of the machines in action? Because I think a lot of people have never seen a high alkaline water machine, and probably more than that, have never heard of them, of this
Okay.
opportunity.
I have
Show us the
a
machine.
Genesis I have a Genesis Platinum. That's our best-selling one from years ago. I've been using it for over 10 years. So these things are
Oh,
durable. They keep going.
yeah, I'm on my
Um,
second machine now in 17 years. It's just amazing. It's
okay,
quite a bargain.
so never done a demonstration using Zoom before, so I'm going to switch this around and show you.
Okay.
That is the Genesis Platinum
I
9.
remember
It's a
that one.
9-plate water ionizer. So let me go ahead and fire it on so you can see that.
That's a
This one
classic
has
machine. Yeah.
the 4 levels of alkaline water for this one. So I'm going to hit the number 4 alkaline setting, which is going to raise the pH to a 10 pH. And then I have a glass here. This is a real simple demonstration because it's just going to show the hydrogen in the water, which is what we're talking about today. There, give me a hold this up to the light and see. Can you see that? Because I can't.
I can see. I think it's kind of hazy. Yeah, I can see it. Oh, sure. You
You
can see
see
the bubble.
all the hydrogen floating around in there?
How do you know that's hydrogen, Alderin?
Because that's the reaction when you electrolyze water. You're taking H2O and you're converting it to OH negative. It's a hydrogen with an electron attached to it. So it's going to free it up from that H2O and it's going to float around your water like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. How
So
long do you
that
think that
is,
that will last before before it
it's best
evaporates?
to drink it 24 to 48 hours after you make it.
Okay.
And
I
I've
think,
got some pH drops here too. Give me one
yeah,
second.
I think the levels of hydrogen drop over time. So the sooner the better. And that's
The
one
sooner the
great,
better. Yeah.
yeah, that's one great thing about these machines. You're
Are you seeing
dispensing as
that?
needed. You know,
So these
every
are pH drops.
hmm
It's showing the pH of the water. So you can see the at the 10 level, you're getting a purple, which is the level you should be getting
Okay.
for it. And so that's showing that the water went from a 7, which I can show you with the tap water coming out of my tap here. A 7 to a 10, a pH scale is exponential, so it's like an earthquake scale. When you're going from 7 to 8, it's a 10 times increase. But when you're going from a 7 to 9, it's 100 times increase. And when you're going from 7 to 10, it's 1,000 times increase. So you can see with the same drops, now we've got this green color, which is what coming out of my tap. So it went from that green 7 pH to that 10 purple pH, which is a full, so 10 times from 7 to 8, 100 times from 8 to 9, 1,000 times from 7 to 10. So that's 1,000 times more alkaline than what's coming out of my tap.
Yeah, that's interesting. And if it were RO water, reverse osmosis water, it would probably be a yellow color, even more acidic than what's coming out of your tap. I'm
Oh
guessing.
yeah, it would
Yeah.
be even with a tinge of red on there.
Okay. So, so if you're drinking reverse osmosis water, you're getting acidic water that's stripped of minerals, whereas the high alkaline water ionizers, they actually require minerals to be able to work, in my understanding. So,
They do, yeah. So the minerals are going to take the charge from the water electrolysis. So you have
yeah.
your alkaline minerals like your potassium, magnesium, and calcium, and they're going to take a negative charge, and then they're
Mhm.
going to be attracted to the positive electrodes in the water electrolysis. So that's going to create your alkaline water, and then you have your other minerals that are going to take the opposite charge and make the acidic water. So it's going to
You
split the
know,
water every time it's running. It's splitting the water.
in fact, we didn't even talk about the acid water. That's another great thing with these machines. I actually produce acid water separately for various purposes. You can use it. It's actually known in Asia as beauty water. People use it for their hair and skin. It's also used to sterilize things. It's known to be antimicrobial. The
Absolutely. So you have several different levels of ionization on any water ionizer. So when you're making a 10 pH, you're going to have a 4 pH acid coming out of your secondary hose. So that 4 pH is very strong acid. Actually, anything below about a 3 to 2.5 pH is going to kill bacteria and viruses. At about a 5.5 pH acid, that's that beauty water you were talking about. So you can put that into a spray bottle and spritz it on your face as a natural astringent. It's also the 5.5 is the best level for house plants or even gardens or other plants you have, because that's the level that they like the most.
Yeah. So, you
That's a
know,
byproduct that you can capture while you're making your alkaline water to drink, or we have a separate acid button on the machines that you can press and make the acid water come out of the top of the machine, so it's easier to capture. And then the alkaline water will come out of the secondary one.
right.
And talking about the countertop models, the undersink models actually have two different spigots on them. The top spigot is going to be the water that you choose, and the spigot below it will be the water that you're not choosing. So if you wanted your alkaline drinking water, you hit the number 3 alkaline, it comes out of the top, and then that secondary one will have the acid water coming out of it. So it actually makes it really easy to capture both. So every time you're using your machine, you can capture both water.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting basically 3 in 1. You're getting filtration, you're getting high alkaline water, and you're also having the opportunity to produce high acid water for other functions. So amazing. You know, we didn't talk about the fact that you're also selling the machine that is basically just the spigot on top. It's not the full box on the counter. I guess it takes a little bit more installation work to put those in, but how do those compare to the tabletop models?
Well, they filter and ionize the same. The difference is that the electronics and the filters go in a box that goes underneath your sink, so you don't have to see it. And the only thing that's above your sink is a spigot with all the controls built into it.
Yeah, they
So
look
you
beautiful.
control all your alkaline and acid water with the spigot. So all you have to do is select the alkaline water or the acid water that you want, hit the on button, and the water will come out of your spigot.
What's
And
the
that
name?
spigot will go right next to your main faucet in your utility hole where your sprayer or your soap dispenser would go. So most kitchens have a utility hole you can pop out and put it in. And if you don't have that, then you need a 1.33 diameter hole in your countertop.
Okay. Okay. So you have a beautiful, clean installation. One of these days, I may go that route. In fact, I think I saw in a recent announcement of yours that you have a new model. What's the name of that model? Is that new or on sale? What am I missing?
They have redesigned our Ion Plus model, which has been a very popular model for us. It's been out for about 5 years, but they have redesigned the faucets so that it's sleeker and has longer faucet spigots, and it can now swivel the entire width of your sink. So it makes it easier to capture water in a pan or a pot, for example, if you're going to boil the water. It just makes it easier to get to. And it's really a nice new design for the faucet. So
interesting. I have to say I'm very happy with the tabletop models. They're so fun to use. I mean, the water comes out very rapidly, and when you press the stop button, it immediately stops. I mean, it's just just a seamless operation. It's kind of fun to use, actually. So, and in fact,
I mean, when you start using it for all like the different uses for a water ionizer, like you can put your toothbrushes and your sponges in the acidic water and keep them sterile. You can keep a spray bottle of the acidic water handy so you can sterilize around your bathroom with it. You can make your super alkaline water, which you wouldn't be drinking, but you use it for cooking. So you can make your rice or your coffee with the super alkaline water, or any vegetables that you're boiling, and it's going to neutralize the acidity of those. So, I mean, I'm a coffee drinker, and making my coffee with a super alkaline water and neutralizing that acid just really brings out the flavor, and it's not going to like damage the enamel on your teeth or cause you the health problems from
wow. You know, I need to try that because I've been using 9.5 for coffee, but you're suggesting using 10.0 for coffee?
Yeah, as strong as you can get it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to give that a shot.
The stronger the alkaline, the more of that acid it's going to neutralize. in the
Mm-hmm.
rice or the vegetables or whatever it is you're cooking with it. So super
Interesting.
alkaline.
Yeah.
And
Let's
like
get
our
into.
Genesis steel, what you have back there, like I was
Mhm.
saying to you before this started, is there's settings you can go to that are above what the manufacturer sets uh, coming out of the box. So there's preset levels, alkaline 4, 3, 2, 1, acid 1 and 2 that
Mhm.
the manufacturer sets. But you can go into your number 4 alkaline and increase that. So you're getting an 11 plus pH super alkaline. So you can really neutralize
Wow,
the
I didn't
acid.
know. I didn't know I had that, that ability. I'm gonna.
Yeah, it's really easy to do. You don't even have to go into any crazy engineering mode or anything with it. So while the machine is running, you're
Mhm.
just going to hold down the 2 right buttons on your control panel. You're going to
Mhm.
hear a chime, and then on the 2 left buttons will serve as a plus and a minus for that alkaline level. So I
Yeah.
set it to the number 4 alkaline setting. I hold down the volume and the pure button on the right-hand side. It chimes. And then I use the alkaline and acid buttons on the left side to increase and decrease that ionization level. So just hit
Okay.
the alkaline button, the plus button, raise that up really to as high as it goes on your number 4 alkaline, and then press the top right button to save your changes. All done. It's that
Yeah.
simple.
Interesting. The first time I ever tried ionized water was at a restaurant here locally. It was called. They're no longer open. They were called the Organic Music Cafe, and they had a machine, and it was exciting. I mean, because so this might have been what 2003 or something like that. Um, so 20 years ago, and maybe 2004. So my first glass, I felt a lightening and improvement in, I mean, for lack of a better term, my brain. Okay. Not like I was treating any particular illness or condition. These days, at the age of 61, of course, metabolic syndrome is setting in. So, you know, I do a lot of different things, but I was so impressed with that experience that I ran out and found you and bought a machine because it was obvious that, and I don't think it was a psychosomatic experience either. I mean, there was something to it. So,
The
have you?
surface tension is different. So when you put it, if you drink like a bottled water next to a glass of ionized water, the ionized water is going to feel a lot lighter in your mouth because of that changed surface tension because it's got that
Hmm,
electrical charge to it. So
I
yeah,
want.
there's definitely a difference.
Well, I wonder if there wasn't a gut-brain axis mechanism happening for me. That continued when I got the machine. It's not so noticeable now, but you know, the first glass certainly was noticeable, and I knew there was something to it. And in fact, now there's a lot of interesting science, even applied to Parkinson's disease and ionized water. I'll show you that. I'll show you that study from a few years ago. But um, why don't we get into? Let me share a screen here, Alderin. I want to show you firstly the article that I published in 2016. You can see that screen, I hope.
Yeah.
Okay. And, I had a very strong hunch, Alderin, that high alkaline water was doing something with the gut and possibly the gut microbes. I had recently started the gut club and was, always into microbes. By the way, a lot of the inspiration for the gut club uh, was with our family dog, who we also gave high alkaline water to. Um, and she had no problem drinking it. Do you know of any pets drinking high alkaline water?
They have a more naturally acidic biology than humans. So you don't want them really to give them the high alkaline water. The low level alkaline is fine, or just the filtered water. But I mean, they're scavengers. They're going to be gnawing the meat off of carcasses they find. So their bodies are designed to be more acidic. Our blood's like a 7.33 pH. Our bodies are naturally slightly alkaline. So it's in our
Okay.
benefit to keep our bodies uh, with the alkaline foods and waters to help maintain our body's natural alkalinity. But pets are more naturally acidic than we are.
Okay, well, I think I may, try to persuade you otherwise, that it's not the alkalinity that is actually, making, the change in health. You probably have a lot of
Oh yeah, I
stories.
know that.
Oh,
Yeah, I know that.
okay, you probably have a lot of stories of customers turning around their health. Is there a favorite one that you have?
I get a lot of feedback from diabetics because diabetes is caused by high levels of oxidative stress.
Yeah.
So when you have a good source of antioxidants in your diet, like what comes from ionized water, it's going to
Hmm.
lower that oxidative stress and
Okay.
reduce your symptoms. And that's really for anything, but specifically because so many people are struggling with diabetes, I've heard a lot of feedback for that.
Yeah. What I'm arguing in this 2016 article is that is that high alkaline water, similar to the high alkaline diet, as it was called, is really a misnomer, because what I'm, what I'm positing here is that the high alkaline water is actually shifting flora to lower pH. So counterintuitively, high alkaline water is leading to a lower gastric, pH, and it's doing this by way of shifting flora in the right direction, which we're going to get into some of the nitty gritty of that. So maybe 9.5 water would still be okay for a pet, if that's the construct that we're shooting for. Because
Mhm.
so let me go back to that screen for a moment. Where are you? Oh, here we go. So the first part of the article, is about where water is absorbed, and it's absorbed by far in the small intestine. So that happens to be a place where it might be considered a battleground for microbiota, because if you have an imbalance of microbes in the small intestine, I like to refer to that as the beginning of the end, because it's such an important area. This is where we not only absorb our water, but also our food, nutrients, amino acids. And so it's really what I refer to as the center of all health. We have, you know, it's right between the liver and bile acid release through the gallbladder, and also the pancreas, where enzymes are released directly into the small intestine. So this is a really important area, and for most of our water, by far, to be absorbed there in the small intestine. This chart makes it look like it's more the second and third sections where water is absorbed. I need to double check that. That's the way the chart is making it look. Right past the stomach, you have the duodenum, then the jejunum and ileum. It could be that most water absorption is taking place in the jejunum and ileum. I'll double check that. But this is where possibly the flora shift is taking place. Now, I had a strong hunch, and at the time that I wrote this article, I was able to find only one article that backed up my hypothesis, and that is a 2005 article by a Russian scientist, Department of Physiology of Microorganisms at Moscow State University, 2004 actually, paper. And what this scientist is saying is that the water is actually making it possible for anaerobic bacteria, these protective anaerobes, as opposed to the aerobes. They're, things like E. coli, for instance, aerobic proteobacteria of all types can cause imbalances of the small intestine. That's largely what small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, is about, and reduced protective bacteria. Some people like to think that microbes really don't play much of a role in the small intestine. They think it's naturally supposed to be basically sterile, but that, I think, is not correct. So we have this misnomer that it's about alkalinity, whereas this 2004 paper is focused on ORP, negative ORP. That's
Yeah.
oxidation reduction potential. And they're saying that electrolyzed reducing water between 0 and minus 300
Yeah.
is where the anaerobes are. Actually, let me read this. Anaerobes do not grow unless the E value is negative between minus 300 and minus 400 MV. That's the sweet spot for 9.5, which is minus 350, I believe.
Exactly. That's where the manufacturer sets it based on that same kind of research. It's also
Yes.
the same ORP negative ORP that you're going to find in some of the best glacial streams and natural springs across the world, where, longevity springs where people are drinking and just living their best lives for a long time and disease free. So that is the magic spot. That's why our manufacturer sets it at that level. And you're right about the alkalinity, because a lot of the US has naturally alkaline water. If you go to parts of Texas or parts of Florida, you're going to see tap water that's 8.5, 9, sometimes even 9.5. And the people drinking that are not healthier. So it's not all the excessive amount of potassium and magnesium and alkaline minerals that are in that water that makes them healthy. It's the charge of the water, the negative ORP, which stands for oxygen reduction potential.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're trying to reduce, which is what an antioxidant does, is those the free radicals that are in our cells bouncing around and damaging them. So that's why you hear doctors preaching antioxidants, is to reduce those free radicals, which are unstable oxygen molecules that bounce around our cells. And the magic of a antioxidant is it has that extra ion to lend. So, our machines create the hydrogen with the extra ion on it. So that is now a free ion that can be lent to something else, which makes it an antioxidant. So you drink the water with all these extra ions, and that ion is lent to the unstable oxygen molecule, and it stabilizes it to regular oxygen. So what happens is, not only do you get antioxidant effect of reducing that oxidative stress on your body, but then all those free radicals get converted into oxygen, which your body uses for energy. So you get detoxified and energized at the same time. Ionized water will do it. Blueberries, any kinds of berries will do it. We have lists of alkaline foods full of antioxidants on our website. You can even Google it and find it. So highly recommend to orient your diet around those foods and ionized water, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the basic idea here is to lower inflammation, to become a good host. I mean, the analogy would be that we are like gardens, basically, and the soil is the lining of our gut, and we have to be able to host protective bacteria. An inflamed gut obviously does not have the protective bacteria, and because the bacteria themselves also control the antioxidant status, the redox status. So I'll show you some of that research, in fact, in a little bit. But basically, even the high alkaline diet, as it was called, was a misnomer. People thought, oh, well, we don't want to eat high alkaline foods because this might raise pH in the gut, which is a bad thing. We know that's associated with things like acid reflux, for instance. And instead of lowering pH, the doctors are giving people proton pump inhibitors, which cause even further microbial overgrowth and still higher pH. So that's not the solution. The solution is to lower pH. So people were afraid of the high alkaline diet eating fruits and vegetables because they were really working under a sterile construct of health. They weren't thinking about how the microbes are really running the show in terms of pH. They're producing the short chain fatty acids, acetate, lactate, butyrate, which also are able to lower pH. which is what you want in the gut. pH is an interesting thing. The way the high alkaline diet actually works is a prebiotic food is feeding the right bacteria that counterintuitively lower pH in the gut. But every time acid is produced in the gut, sent out into the bloodstream is bicarb. That actually raises alkalinity in blood, which to a healthy level. So that's the problem. I mean, people are not thinking about pH as compartmentalized throughout the body. There are inverse relationships, even, inverse between blood and brain pH, as well as inverse relationship of pH intracellular, inside the cell versus outside the cell. For instance, you want to have a healthy lower acid intracellular pH.
It's an energy exchange thing.
Yeah.
Between the cells and the alkalinity that's outside the cells, it helps get transfer of energy.
Okay. So, so basically this all starts in the gut. I mean, this is where our systemic pH is coming from. And so that's why I think high alkaline water machines are really a misnomer, in the same way that we should come up with a new name, Alderin. They're called ionizers, right? But
yeah, I mean, that's the focus. That's a marketing name. It's actually electrolyzed water. So if you were doing your own research on PubMed.gov or anywhere else, you look for electrolyzed water, because that's what it is. But ionized water is a marketing term that's really to focus on the ions of the water, not the alkalinity.
Right.
Alkalinity is something that happens when you use water electrolysis to create, the ionized water, to create those ions. It naturally makes water alkaline. It creates an alkaline chemical structure. But it's not the same kind of an alkaline water that you would find in your stores and bottles, where they're just putting alkaline minerals into it to raise the pH. It's completely different.
Right. In fact, go ahead.
Right.
When people
one's a change in the whole structure of the water, which is what our machines do, versus just putting something that's alkaline into a container and making it alkaline that way. So I've had people say, well, why can't you just put baking soda in your water? It'll make it alkaline. Well, yeah, because it's not the same thing. It's not changing the chemical structure of the water.
Exactly. That's what I was going to bring up. That people see high alkaline water, they think they can make it themselves with baking soda, which, by the way, does have some beneficial mechanisms in and of itself. There's some that we can do an entire show on that sometime, a new podcast. Let me show you a close up of the machine that we're using, the Genesis Steel. This is where we're keeping a lot of our collection of studies about this field. Oops. On this page, this is our Facebook page, and I posted this in January 2018. That could be when I got this Genesis Steel machine behind me. So it's been doing a great job. By the way, I only have to change filters about twice a year, if that. The filters last for about 3,000 gallons, I think, or liters rather. So the filters last quite a long time. Alderin, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is where we keep a lot of the studies. You can see there are 108 comments here on our Facebook page on this photo, and here's some examples of studies. Here's a 2018 paper about alkaline reduced drinking water. By the way, it's called reduced water, which is another misnomer, I think, because it's actually, the water's actually got raised electrons, in my understanding.
Well, it's reducing the cluster size of the water molecule. So, but it's if you were to measure it like your tap water, the water molecules would be a certain distance apart. When you electrolyze it, it's about 66% closer together. So there's actually more concentration of the water molecules in a given space than coming out of your tap or a bottle. So it's more hydrating because there's more water molecules in the water. So it's
Okay.
reducing the space. It's concentrating the amount of water in the water.
Okay. Interesting. Well, here they're talking about how the water was helpful in over 8 weeks to improve the quality of life of patients with IBSD. That's diarrhea, IBS. Here's another paper. Oops, I'm down to. Let me bring this up. Oh yeah, this was the Parkinson's disease study where they did show that fecal microbiota was shifted by the electrolyzed reduced water. And they used a mouse model and of Parkinson's disease, and they showed that the sulfovibrio was high, but was then lowered by the reduced water, the electrolyzed reduced water, ERW. And what was raised in its place were butyrate producing bacteria. That's fascinating. Just recently, I mean, in the last month, there was research about Parkinson's disease having high disulfovibrio, which is a sulfate reducing bacteria producing hydrogen sulfide. Excuse me. So raising butyrate producers is what it's all about. Another paper. This is 2023 March, so a very recent paper from Korea talking about how the water, was helping long term at 9.5 to improve dyspepsia. So, we're talking again about gastric acid production. That's very, so are you surprised to see this, Alderin? March
No, I
2023?
know when I remember to drink my ionized water throughout the day like I'm supposed to, it keeps my gut all nice and healthy. So
Yeah.
key is to put it in a bottle and keep it with you where you're going. And sometimes you get busy, doing your errands or taking the kids to soccer or whatever, and you forget to bring your water with you. And
Yeah.
you need to drink it throughout the day to get the best benefits.
Right. Right. Well, we're on to the next topic here. We're talking about hydrogen. Before we were talking about the antioxidant value of the water in the form of negative ORP. Now we're on to talking about hydrogen gas and some of the mechanisms. One of the mechanisms, as I understand it, is in activating NRF2, the NRF2 pathway. That's what hydrogen molecules are known to be able to do in a similar way that sulforaphane would do. We're back to vegetables. That's in broccoli and broccoli sprouts and other brassica, cruciferous vegetables. Also known to be a very powerful NRF2 activator. That activates an anti-inflammatory cascade. I know when I take sulforaphane, for example, my eyesight even improves a little bit, which is quite welcoming. So, hydrogen, there's also hydrogen water, hydrogen rich water. I've seen some talk of some of the machines that produce that can also produce ozone and chlorine at the same time, while others don't. So you have to be really careful with hydrogen rich water machines. What's your take on that field? I think there's some competition going on between ionizers and hydrogen rich water.
Well, some of those products you got to watch out for because they're using a catalyst to create a chemical reaction to create that hydrogen, and sometimes they'll use like a salt-based catalyst to do that. And what happens is you get that ozone or chlorine byproduct that's also being created when you're making the hydrogen. So you can get things in the water that you don't want to be drinking. So that's one thing. Two, I mean, like I showed you holding it up to the light. I mean, ours is just full of that hydrogen gas. And that hydrogen gas in the Genesis steel that you have has been measured at 1,500 parts per billion, which is more than you would find in freshly squeezed orange juice or blueberry juice or any of those. So
Okay.
the levels wouldn't even be close to what our machines can do.
Okay.
And there's no salt being used in ours or any other catalyst. It's just pure electrical current coming from 99.99% pure platinum titanium plates. So there's nothing that's going to get in there and cause chemical reactions that you don't want.
Okay. Interesting. Well, the flora shift that may be taking place due to the hydrogen molecules, again, is about raising short chain fatty acids, the butyrate producers in particular, with respect to not just brain health, but systemic health. You know, things like the Clostridium are known to utilize hydrogen. Here's another paper. This is another subject where it's more about humates, humic acid, fulvic acid, the lignites. This is what this 2021 study is about, where these bacteria were found to use hydrogen. And these are really, could be considered some of the most protective gut microbes we have. This also could explain Zach Bush's product. Are you familiar with Zach Bush? And he's got a product called Ion Biome. It used to be called Restore, using lignites in the humic acid, fulvic acid family of products, which is a redox mechanism. But I found it really interesting to consider that the hydrogen is actually used by these protective bacteria. The bacteria also produce hydrogen, as part of, hydrogen is actually a byproduct along with CO2 in butyrate synthesis. And that hydrogen is then used by other microbes. So the Clostridia are largely responsible for the production of butyric acid. They're in order to make it, they're cross-fed lactate and acetate by our bacteria. They're using the fiber from our diet, and they're cross-fed by lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. And then they're producing hydrogen, which can then cross-feed the methanogens. So our gut is like a wild kingdom, and quite a factory of sharing. And it's recently been shown that when one microbe is off kilter, it can affect everything. The hydrogen is actually helping to quell the nitrate radicals also, and also hydroxyl radical, the free radicals. So again, we're talking about the antioxidant value. That's what hydrogen is able to do. It's able to stop what's thought to be the most inflammatory of the free radicals, that hydroxyl radical. That's fascinating. Let me see here what I have here. Oh, that's not it. Yeah, that could be it. Let me share one more screen and we'll wrap it up. Here we go. Yeah, here's the paper that I'm referring to. Hydrogen acts as a therapeutic antioxidant by selectively reducing cytotoxic oxygen radicals. So not only does negative ORP have that antioxidant value, but also hydrogen. And
reducing the oxidative stress levels. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what we need to do in order to be a host for protective microbes. People are caught with gut dysbiosis. That's usually gram-negative overgrowth, but it could also be gram-positive, and reduced anaerobic protective bacteria like Bacteroides may need to be raised. To do that, I like to also utilize dietary things, especially greens, to raise protective bacteroides that are guiding our immune response. That's what it's all about. It's about having bacteria that are protective, that don't cause an immune response that hurts us. If we've learned anything from the pandemic, that should be it. I think that's really what defines natural immunity. It's having the right protective microbes to maintain an anti-inflammatory immune response. So here's a paper from 2011 about the neuroprotective effects of reduced electrolyzed water. They're not talking about microbes here yet, but they are referring to molecular hydrogen in 2011. Here's a paper about that hydroxyl radical shown to be a major causative factor in ulcers. IBS. This paper is delving into microbiota and changes in the gut based on the protective microbes. Another thing here that I've just started to learn about is the target of hydrogen molecules being a factor that's actually apparently part of our blood. The Fe porphyrin. I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing that word correctly. This is new territory for me. But this is about lowering inflammation by way of hydrogen molecules. And this paper is talking about the target, at least one of the targets. I need to get more into that. This is another photo where we're talking about short chain fatty acids from water rich in hydrogen gas. I'm sorry, we're talking about whether or not drinking water rich in hydrogen gas can revive the brain based on short chain fatty acid upregulation. Seems pretty convincing that it is happening in that way. Here's the paper.
Not just I mean, a good source of antioxidants, a good source of hydrogen-rich water. I mean, it's not just your gut or any one thing in your body. It's not just your brain. I mean, it's your whole sense of well-being. I mean, everything gets affected. I mean, your emotions are tied to the activities of your body too. Even your perspective on life can be shifted by getting your body's chemistry in order by eating the right diet.
Of course, that's the major focus of the Gut Club.
It's not just feeling better, it's also how you see things, how you feel emotionally, which can impact the relationships you have with people around you, how you get along at work. It can boost your creativity. So something that you're working, if your brain is working at its optimal level, maybe it's time to sit down and write that book you've always wanted to write. I mean, it's a whole shift in life. It's not just any one thing.
Right. Well, speaking of mental health, here's a study about autism, and it was found that hydrogen-rich water was helpful in a mouse model, 2018. And then finally, for now, here's the research about the NRF2 pathway and hydrogen-rich water. So basically, there is hydrogen-rich water available, but ionized water is also hydrogen rich, as well as having the antioxidant factor involved. There are some people, I think, wanting to claim that the only factor in ionized water is hydrogen molecules, but I don't think I think they're saying this as far as in a competitive manner. I think they're backing their own products. Scientists, you have to be careful of, and in fact, there's a paper now in the headlines where a Harvard scientist who studies the science of honesty is now being accused.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that? Yeah, being accused of falsifying the data.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to vet your papers carefully. But I love the way you've come to mental health. That's a great way for us to close things up, Alderin, because that's a major focus of the Gut Club is what's called the microbiota gut-brain axis. So I like to think that ionized water is one of the important things that people can give a try. We'll put a link to your website. How can people reach you directly?
Oh, waterforlifeusa.com.
Waterforlifeusa.com. Okay, great. We'll also have a link through the Gut Club page. We're a proud affiliate of your company. Finally, after what 15 years or more of using your products, we're proudly promoting them, and the science is backing us. It's about flora shift in the right direction, and how that's accomplished is a construct of lowering inflammation. It's not just about taking probiotics, and doing other things to, like prebiotics and dietary factors, but just the simple construct of lowering inflammation goes a long way toward flora shift, because our immune system is a reciprocal relationship between microbes and our host immune cells, being being able to actually change the balance of microbes. So the immune system can shift flora in and of itself, and the microbes can change the immune system. So, we need to get out of a vicious circle of inflammation, and I like to think that ionized water is one of the tools that can be used.
Yeah, that and diet.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yes.
So, Alderin, thank you so much.
Whole foods diet.
Yeah, exactly. And just cutting down on sugar alone. My
Whole
God.
foods is key. The more you process food, the more it's broken down, the more it's too quickly absorbed, and fat is created, and it's no good. You gotta, for your body to get the full information from what it's eating and utilize it in the best possible way, you want your foods to be whole grains, whole plants.
Yes.
And the more you can shift to that in what you're eating, the healthier you're going to be.
Right. And though that kind of a diet is what maintains the lining of the gut, which, needs to have the mucus layer. That's what fiber is about. So, otherwise microbes have direct access to the lining of the gut when the mucus layer is not there. And that's intimately associated with our nervous system. So that's where gut brain issues can take place. So we need that high fiber diet. We need a healthy mucosal lining, and ionized water, I think, can contribute to that. So I want to thank you for being with us today, Alderin. It's an honor to speak with you and finally see you after all these years.
Oh, my pleasure.
My gosh, it's such difficult material. I have to apologize to our audience. I'm still learning about things like redox, and how microbes play an important role there. And as far as lowering inflammation, I don't think I'm capable of giving a very accurate description of what redox is all about. It's electron transfer, and it's heavy duty stuff. So maybe we'll have a part 2, and when I'm more comfortable and not stumbling on my words. So anyway, thank you, Alderin, for being here. So from Palm Beach County, from Palm Beach County, Florida, with love, Alderin, out to Portland, Oregon. Stay safe out there. Hopefully you won't be hit with. Hopefully you won't be hit with wildfires this time of year. Have you heard of rain-making bacteria, by the way?
Rain-making bacteria, maybe.
I'm going to send you my children's book. This is bacteria in the atmospheric microbiome that's responsible for whether or not it rains or snows.
Oh.
So, this is associated with drought, which leads to wildfires. Right now, much of Canada is on fire. A lot of that smoke is going to my hometown of Chicago. But I think you mentioned you're not being hit with it in Portland.
Not yet, but we do get our fire season. It should be starting anytime. I mean, I hope it doesn't, but I mean, we've had the Eagle Creek fire and a couple of real nasty fires in our area.
Yeah.
Recently.
So this is not just a personal health issue. It's a planetary health issue, the microbiome. So thank you.
Yeah.
This is, I think we've just done a first, Alderin. I don't think anyone else out there is talking about high alkaline water machines and how they can shift flora in the right direction. So
That's awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
this is the information that needs to get out there, and this is the way it gets started. There's
yeah,
certainly a lot of misinformation out there. If you start Googling different terms related to ionized water, like you said, there's a lot of politics in science.
oh yeah,
There's a lot of misinformation out there, but I say stick to the peer-reviewed research that you can find on reputable websites like PubMed.gov, which is where the government publishes all the peer-reviewed medical research.
Mhm.
Rely on those instead of some guy's website. You don't even know what that guy's background is.
Right, right. or just spend more than 2 minutes looking, because the more the more almost the less you know. And so,
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you Google ionized water and the first thing you see is that it's snake oil on tap or some nonsense like that, you
right,
got to think to yourself, why would this person be promoting so heavily a negative article against a product, right?
exactly.
Unless they're just like so altruistic and they think they're, doing the world a big favor. Well, what if they're trying to promote their own product? What if they're trying to keep an entire industry down or an entire market down because it's a threat to their market? That would be a better explanation as to why they would promote misinformation like that.
Right, right. Well, I can speak from personal experience now of at least 15, plus years. I love the machines. So thank you for providing that new way of life for us,
Absolutely.
and I hope people will give it a shot. Alderin, take care. We'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye
Take
bye
care.
now. Bye bye.
Bye bye.